The Mark 8 GTI is one of the best but most frustrating generations of VW's hot hatch. So today I'm going to tell you all that's new with the 2023 model, and more importantly, I will explain why I love the GTI and the things that make me want to pull out my eyes. Since it was redesigned in 2022 for the US market, there weren't a whole lot of changes for 2023. They made VW's performance LEDs standard with integrated cornering lights, and they added a 40th anniversary edition, which is actually very welcome. So it seems to be based on the S trim, but adds the Autobahn's adaptive suspension, along with some decals and slick looking wheels. That's all of the changes. Before we get into the bulk of this video, if you enjoy fun, detailed car content without fluff, consider subscribing and hitting the bell for notifications. There are a lot of things that I enjoy about the GTI, but one of the biggest factors that separates it from the class is the feature set. So even in the base trim, you're gonna have full LED lighting, rain sensing windshield wipers, heated front seats, a heated steering wheel, rear vents, and rear USB ports. Those base cars also come with all of the active safety features available for the thing, which means adaptive cruise control. Even with the manual transmission, you'll actually just shift and then it'll continue about its business. You'll have lane centering, and if you go with an automatic, if you pass out behind the wheel, it will actually pull you over to a stop. And if you step up to the SE, you get more cool accent lighting, proximity unlock and lock, a Harman Kardon sound system, a generously named panoramic sunroof, and much more. Just keep in mind, the price will reflect these features, as the car I have here stickers at almost $39,000. The nice thing is that the dealership it's at actually has holiday pricing here, $1,000 below the MSRP. So if you're interested, I'll link that information below. I'd also really like to thank Royal on the Eastside here in Bloomington, Indiana, for letting me test drive a few GTIs over the last year. Their staff there are friendly and honest. Check them out in here in the market. So even though this thing can get pricey, it just has a lot more features than the similarly priced Subaru WRX, or the more frugal Honda Civic SI, and even the Hyundai Elantra N. But you're not buying a GTI because you want your ass to be warm during winter. You're also picking one of these up to be fun, and the powertrain definitely follows suit, and that's my next reason. So you will have VW's long-running iron block EA888 engine. It's a 2-liter, it's turbocharged, it makes 241 horsepower, 273 pound-feet of torque, and the ladder there is really important to the puzzle. From a roll, this thing is properly quick, though it can be difficult to get off the line, even with the standard E limited slip differential. 0 to 60 in this thing with real world conditions, I got about 6.1 seconds with an automatic, 6.3 with a manual, but it's really just down to the tires and road surface when it comes to numbers. Acceleration past the launch is stronger than I expected. On back roads, the immense mid-range power from that torque makes this enthralling without necessitating an abusive right foot to get you from corner to corner. The transmission options are mostly fantastic too, whether you go 6-speed manual or 7-speed dual clutch. You go with the DSG, you have very snappy shifts, excellent response, reactive paddle shifters, and a reactive sport mode. Go with the manual transmission and you have a fairly communicative clutch and shifter, the former of which kind of has a springy take on it, but I find to be weighted very well. The shifter also feels nice. It's not rubbery like some other German vehicles. And there's a smooth, satisfying action to it, though not as crisp as a Honda or as old school notchy as a WRX. Throw lengths are appropriate for a sport compact, and rev hang is reasonable. If I had to knock anything, it would be that the gearing is maybe a touch tall. You'll get past 60 in second gear. And the last big pro to the powertrain is gas mileage. Outside of the stellar numbers, like 30 miles per gallon combined, it runs on regular fuel, saving you quite a bit of money at the pump. Once you get it onto a back road though, you'll notice the next thing that most cars in the class are pretty good at, and that would be handling. But the GTI goes a little bit further with great feedback. So the steering actually communicates what's going on. The feel on center is tight. It has a quick ratio to it, so it feels like you can change direction rapidly. I will say that there's a little bit of body roll in there, but that too communicates more than it frustrates. I would say it's best described as playful and natural. Considering it as a daily driver, I really wouldn't change a thing with how this handles. Plus, it being a hatchback with a short dashboard and a low belt line, visibility is great, elevating the fun factor and confidence. Another standout that not everyone in the class can brag about would be comfort. This is forgiving and it has a borderline luxurious ride. It comes off composed. It's fit for gnarly city streets and tight hairpin corners. I think the suspension has a remarkable range, and the cabin is also quiet for a small hatchback. Plus, the seats too are very supportive and they hold you in through corners with still somewhat plush cushioning. The next reason, and the last reason I would pick up one of these, is a key aspect to a hot hatch, the practicality. Starting up front, you have great levels of storage, big cubbies, a wireless charger, door pockets lined with felt that can fit a 40-ounce hydro flask. You have a back seat that is big enough to accommodate a 6'3" person in the front and back. Granted, legroom is compromised, like the average TikTok user's personal privacy, but it easily works in a pinch, headroom is plentiful, and seats offer good support. Hopping into the cargo area, it's short, but you can fold down the rear seats and you have good length, but it's also tall, making this a very versatile, well-packaged car, and that rounds out all of the reasons that I would pick up a GTI. Before I dig into the downsides, let's talk reliability. VW's engine, again, has been used for quite some time. The DSG, as long as you keep up with the 40,000 mile intervals to change the fluid, it's a pretty reliable transmission. But the previous gen was not without faults, most serious of which came from failing turbo and turbo wastegate actuators, which seemed to be fixed before the mid-cycle refresh. More common were issues from the plastic water pump leaking, some coil packs failing in high heat, weak clutches that don't stand up well to neglect, and leaky sunroofs. The more research I do on the Mark 7.5, the more well built it seems, so the Mark 8 should be a robust car. And after a year in the US market, that seems to be the case, the biggest issues being a temperamental infotainment system and an engine cover recall. If you're looking for the most reliable vehicle in the class, I may need the GTI to prove itself more before I'd recommend it to you. But based off of everything I've read, I'd trust the GTI so long as you're changing your oil well before the 10,000 mile guideline. Now for the actual downsides, I think the biggest one for me is VW's full frontal assault on basically every dial and button in the interior. Hell, you even have a slider for the sunroof. You also have a convoluted infotainment system that integrates the HVAC controls into the screen itself, which just adds unnecessary steps for basic function. Now, you do at least have volume and tune dials though, if you go with the base trim. The user interface can be buggy at times and has the settings kind of poorly laid out, though I do appreciate the high customizability of it. But the tech don't stop there. They also added capacitive controls to the steering wheel, which they may actually go back on, and I kind of hope they do. At least there is feedback, there's kind of a click to them, but you can on accident hit them. It's not a deal breaker for me personally, because once you kind of learn where to put your hands, you can usually avoid them, at least that's what I've found. And I do really like the steering wheel outside of that. It's got a nice perforation to it, great shape. I also think that material quality, especially considering the price, could be improved, though at least panel fitment is for the most part pretty good. And my last complaint is I wish that there was a trim that slotted below the S, because there's kind of a high step-in price. So if someone doesn't want all of the features that I rattled off in the beginning, you could make a GTI that starts with destination below $30,000, no problem. Even considering my electrical grievances and high step-in price, I find the Mark 8 GTI in many scenarios to be the most compelling car in the class. It brings a smile to my face without having to push it to its limits. It's comfortable over various types of roads, it's practical, and it has all of the features that I could want in a car like this. It's a true knockout of a hot hatch that's only held down by VW's obsession with innovating where unnecessary. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then please leave a like to help me take on the YouTube algorithm. If you want to see more, subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And thank you to my loyal patrons. I'll catch you in the next one.